Hey everyone, and welcome to LNL 3D modeling. And this will be our first video in our beginner course on 3D modeling. Today, we'll explore what Onshape is, why it's such a powerful tool for CAD design, and I'll walk you through the main features and tools that will teach you how to use to create your own 3D models. Whether you're a beginner getting started or someone moving from another CAD system, this video will give you an overview on how the basic tools in Onshape work and what makes Onshape unique. First, let me go through basically what Onshape is. And Onshape is a cloud-based 3D CAD platform, which allows you to create your own designs. And unlike traditional CAD software that you have to install on your computer, Onshape runs entirely on your web browser. That means you don't have to download anything to your computer. Your designs are automatically saved to the cloud, like a Google Doc. You can work on it from any device, and you can collaborate in real time with your project members. Onshape includes part studios where you develop your individual parts, assemblies where you bring those parts together to create working mechanisms, and drawings where you show your 3D model in a 2D platform in a technical drawing. And over the course of our courses, we will be teaching you how to become a master at all this. So first, let me open a Part Studio so I can walk you through the interface. So to create a Part Studio or any project, go to this top button named Create, click it, click to Document, and you can title this whatever you want. I'm going to title it Beginner Tutorial 1 and Create, and it'll pop up here. So here are some of the main areas that you can see. Up top, you have the toolbar. This is where all of, well, your tools are. This is everything that you use for sketching, extruding, making your designs become something that you can physically see on the screen. And over here, you can see your features list. This is going to be like your history. It'll pop up every sketch, every extrude will populate here. So you can go back and edit it later, and it'll show you everything that you've done. And up here, you have the view cube, which allows you to reorient where your camera is facing pretty easily like that. And in the middle, you have your graphics area, which is where your model will actually be, and this is the space you will be working in. And finally, at the bottom, you have the tabs, which shows you your parts, your assemblies, your drawings. Any of that stuff will be at the bottom, so you can switch between them easily. Of course, you can customize all this. You can go to your settings and choose which one do you want it to be bigger or something. Here, you can drag it to make it bigger or smaller. And as you can see, when you first create a project, you start with 3 planes, your top, your front, and your right. And this is what we will create our first sketches on. But first, let me tell you some of the controls so you aren't thrown in blind and not knowing how to click anything. So of course, right click allows you to select things like that. If you right click and drag, you can select multiple things at the same time, but that's more for lines and stuff that we will use later. Left click will show an option menus based on what you click. And left click and dragging will tilt your camera view. So you can get a more exact angle of what you want to look at in the view cube. And mouse wheel will zoom in and zoom out, which is very useful. And finally, holding down the control button and the dragging left click will move your camera without tilting it. That way you can, for bigger projects, you can kind of like zoom in and then see what's going on. And for 3D modeling, I always recommend using a mouse. That way you have that scroll wheel, which is very useful. And trying to drag while also left clicking with 2 fingers is always really annoying. So now we're ready to make our first sketch. To create the sketch, click the sketch button or press Shift S and it'll pop up with this, and we have to create our sketch plane. For this, you can choose any of them that you want to use. I'll just be showing you how to use the basic things. So I'm going to use the top. And to look on this dead on, what you can do is you can left click and you can press View Normal to Sketch Plane, and it will pop it up like this. And these lines in the middle are the other planes. So we can go up here and we can turn them off by hiding them. So this is the sketch menu. And as you can see, there are a bunch of tools on the toolbar to help you out with creating your 2D version. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the basic ones and how to use them. First, you have your line. This is a very simple tool, just creates a line, you can drag it, it will automatically put you in a new one. You can do stuff like that. Very simple. And then you have a midpoint line, which basically allows you to make a line from the middle, kind of like that. And next we have the corner rectangle where you press it once, it will start one corner of the rectangle, and then it will have you create the opposite corner. That way you have a rectangle. And then if you go down and press the stop down menu, you have the center point rectangle, which is basically the same thing, except you drag it from the center. And the more you drag it away from the origin point, is the longer it is in that direction on both sides. And these are the basic ones. If you want to stop creating this, like you want to be able to click something, just press escape and it will cancel you out of that. And then let me go ahead and clear it up, drag, and you press backspace and you get rid of all of it. Next, you have your center point circle. This you will create or your center of your circle and then drag out to get your radius. Then you have a 3-point circle where you create 1 point, you create the second point, and you create a third point. And it will create a circle to hit all 3 of those points, which is very interesting. And you have your ellipse, which is your ovals and stuff. So you create your center, you create the radius of one side, and then you create the radius of your other side. Pretty simple. Go ahead and delete those to make it easier. Then you have your arcs, this is your 3-point arc. You create 1 point, you create your end point, and you create your midpoint. And then these are a little bit more advanced. The only one you really need to know is the conic, where you create your first point, second point, and you can kind of drag it like this so you can get some interesting curves like that. Next, you have your inscribed polygon, which is a little bit more advanced that you probably won't use right now, but you can drag out your radius, and then after you decide what your radius is, you can decide how many sides it has. So it looks something like this, which is a little bit strange. And then here's your spline, which is you drag, you create a point, you drag, you create a point, and you can keep going to create weird shapes like that. Next, we have points, which these really aren't that helpful right now. They're usually used to, you put them on a line and make it become the midpoint using some of the constraints I'll show you later. Here's the text button. So you can create a box like this, and then you can type in text like hello, like that. Here's your trim tool, and I'll go and show you how to use that. So let's say I have a couple lines like this, and I don't really like this line. There's a couple ways you could, it allows you to delete stuff, similarly to backspace. It just cuts it away. This is the mirror device or mirror tool, and it's very useful for creating symmetrical things. So let's say I did this and I want this to be reflected on both sides. I'd use the mirror tool and I'd select the mirror line. Sorry, I don't know what just happened. Select the mirror line. In this case, I will make the right plane the mirror line, and then select entities to be mirrored. Boom, boom, boom. I click the lines. They're reflected over the right plane, and they're copied, and now we have two, which is why it's so symmetric there. These are linear patterns and circular patterns. They're a little bit more advanced, but I'll go ahead and show you them. Let's say we have, well, I'll show you the center. So let's say you have a circle like this, and you have a triangle out of it, and you want to make that happen multiple times around. What you can do, you can click circular pattern, click the circle, and you can click these two, and you can drag the center to the middle of your circle, and then there you go. It copies and pastes it around multiple times, and let's say you want it more than 3 times, you double click that, and you can replace it with how many times you want, and you press enter, and now we have a funny looking star shape. The last thing I'll show you in this video is some of the constraints. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the dimension tool. The dimension tool, this allows you basically to choose how long something is in inches and centimeters. Let's say I want this to be 0.6 inches, and it will shrink everything down like that. This is the coincident tool. Let's say I have 2 lines like that, and I want this point to touch this point, and I don't want to create a whole new line. I can click coincidence. I can hit this point and this point, and they will join together. You have concentric, which is basically making 2 set circles share the same center. So let's say I have this. I can go to this one, and this one, and now they're sharing the same center. Parallel just makes 2 lines parallel to each other. So let's say we have that, and then we have this. I can make these 2 parallel, and now these 2 are parallel to each other. Tangent kind of like makes up 1 point of this line touch 1 point of a circle. So I can do like this. See, so this is touching at exactly 1 point, which is here. Let me go ahead and clear up this interface so it's easier to look at. Next, you can make something horizontal to another thing. So let's say I have 2 lines, and I want this point to be horizontal to that point. You can click this, and I'll move it up to be exactly horizontal. And you can do the same thing for the vertical. Let's say I have another line, and I want this to be vertical from this. So here, vertical. Click this point, click that point. Now this point is vertical to this point, and this point is horizontal to that point. And perpendicular makes one line perpendicular to the other, so it intersects it perfectly. So I have this line. Actually, need to delete that sketch entity because I don't want it to be stuck horizontally. Anyways, so I want this line to be perpendicular to this line. So if this line continued on and this line continued on, they'd be perpendicular. This is the equal line. It makes things the same length. Let's say I want to make this one equal to this one. Now they're the same length. Midpoint, it really just makes a midpoint of a line. Like let's say I have this, I can use this tool, make this the midpoint of this, and now it's at the midpoint. And then that is basically all of the beginner tools you can use here. There's one more in here, which is called transform. And this is, you can click it, and you can just move this to where you want it to be. And yeah. So now you may be wondering why a couple of lines I've made are blue, while sometimes some of the lines are black, like that. What that means basically is blue lines aren't fully constrained, which means they can be moved to something like this. They can be moved. And the black lines are stuck in this position. I can't drag them because they have properties that make it into the same. Like, for example, I could make these black by saying that this line has to be 1 inch, and now everything here is black because it's completely constrained. It cannot be moved at all. It is set in stone how this thing looks. Sorry about that. LNL modeling. I can make it say this, and when you're done, you can click this green check mark. And then that's your sketch done. You'll see it populate in your features menu, even though it already was, but now you'll be out of it. And then congrats, this is your first sketch. In the following videos, we'll be showing you how to take this thing from the 2D plane to the 3D plane. And until then, I hope this has helped, and thank you for watching. Hey, one more thing before leaving. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any of our free content on YouTube. And if you want to get a full course on 3D modeling, look in the description and it will lead you to Ella Nelb's 3D modeling's full website. And on that website, there are 4 courses on 3D modeling that y'all can order or pre-order depending on the production stage. So that was the only thing I wanted to say. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.